Frederick Bastilla wrote a paper called, I believe it was The Seen and the Unseen. And he talked about the difference between a good economist and a bad economist. And there was only one difference. The bad economist only saw the visible effects, while the good economist noticed those effects but also looked for the unforeseen effects. I believe both parties have been like the bad economists. This isn't a popularity contest to me, this is a job interview. And the job qualifications are stated in a document called the Constitution, and I qualify for them. They're pretty simple. You got to be over 25, you got to live in your district. It's pretty simple. The other thing I like, though, is the Constitution also provides the job description and your powers of what you can do and what you cannot do. As your representative in Congress, I would be sure to look to the Constitution for guidance for my job and do the job that I'm being elected to do, which is uphold the Constitution and allow people to have the individual freedoms and liberties to enjoy their lives, to raise their families, and to be as prosperous as they can be. Not being a politician, I'm not going to sit here and jump on Mr. Trakas and Mr. Kucinich. I don't have a voting record that they can go, well, you went this way. I'm more concerned about what they're going to do in the future. And that's, for me, I have a ground level view because I'm out working. I would be the rabbit in that story, except for I don't sit still. But I do have a ground level. I had the privilege of seeing what these policies do to me personally, to my friends, and to my relatives. And that's the reason why I would like to be your congressman, so I can uphold the Constitution, so I can give you back your freedoms, your money. I want to be out of your wallet, out of your bedroom, and off your property. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Conroy. Now we will have rebuttal remarks from each of the candidates using what is left of their time. Mr. Trakas, you have 10 seconds to clear your throat and give us one good punchline.
Well, like I say, I didn't get the chance to talk about it, but higher education is the key to our future here. I would like to do everything possible to try to help higher education, both at CSU, CWRU, Akron, and the other great institutions.
All right, Congressman Kucinich, you have 2 minutes and 40 seconds for your rebuttal.
For years, I've been working with the auto workers and with management to try to solidify the position of our auto plants in Cleveland. I've also been, and I had a meeting recently with Bill Ford to talk to him about the benefits and the great plants that exist here, the Ford plant that exists, and what we can do to help strengthen it. And what I told him in the meeting was that just this piecemeal approach that's taken in Washington is not sufficient, that we need an American manufacturing policy, where the maintenance of steel, automotive, and aerospace is seen as vital to our national economic security. He instantly jumped at that, and he said, you know, you're the first person who has said that, and I went on to tell him that also a health care plan, a not-for-profit health care system is part of it, because we know the auto industry has suffered mightily from not being able to meet the health care obligations that they've had. So there's just, you know, no question about it that when it has come to the auto industry, I've been there 100%. Now, the bill that Mr. Trakas is referring to, a continuing appropriation bill, 98%, more than 98% of that spending had nothing to do with the auto industry. It had to do with helping a war continue, it had to do with missile defense, it had to do with a lot of things that had nothing to do with the needs of the people. We need to change our priorities and focus. If we're going to have a manufacturing policy, let's focus on rebuilding America's manufacturing. Now, I voted against the bailout, and I think the bailout's an issue in this election. Mr. Trakas said that he would have voted for it. He also says that he would have shut down the markets. Now, he sent a letter to President Bush asking him to do that. In Iceland, they shut down the market. You know what happened? The market collapsed. 75% of the market value was lost. So I think that the judgment that's needed for a member of Congress in matters of crisis, in times of crisis, very important here to consider. Mr. Trakas has blamed day trading for the crisis on the markets, when in fact we all know a housing bubble collapse that was driven by predatory lenders. I wondered why in the world he wouldn't focus on predatory lenders instead of trying to say it was day traders. And then I looked at his record in the legislature. He had 3 major bills, all of which helped to strengthen the position of predatory lenders by taking away local control, preempted cities like Cleveland being able to do something about predatory lenders long before things started to unravel here. Also took a position in helping to support a bill that knocked down consumer safety protections in Ohio. And then when it came time for the Senate to try to strengthen the protections, he voted against that. So we have to see who will a representative really represent. And the record shows that I represent the people. I cannot be bought, I cannot be bossed, and with your support, I'll go back to Congress to continue to fight for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Congressman. And now, Mr. Conroy, you get the 2-minute warning here. You have 2 minutes for your rebuttal.
Unfortunately, what I keep hearing from both my opponents is, I'm going to spend more, I'm going to spend more, I'm going to spend more. We can't spend anymore. Traditionally, our GDP has been at 4% for most of our country's history, or a good portion of it. It has now ballooned up to 20%. We need to get levels back down to constitutionally mandated levels. I know a lot of people in the presidential election are afraid. They want to vote for the lesser of 2 evils. And I can understand that. I'm still voting for my choice and my opinion. But in this election, you have a better choice. You can voice your opinion by voting for a third party and sending that voice to Washington saying, no, we're not going to stand for it anymore. You've spent too much. You've done too much. We need to rein this in. Thank you very much.
All right, candidates, thank you very much for that summary of your beliefs, ideas, priorities, and platforms. We now return to Ralph Deloretta for some brief City Club announcements.
Thank you, Tom. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we're listening to a debate between the candidates for United States Congress for Ohio's 10th District. We will return in a few moments for our traditional City Club questions. But first, these announcements. There are 9 more debates here at the City Club in the next couple of weeks. They are listed in your programs, and we hope you will return. Now we would like to proceed with the question and answer portion of our debate. Holding microphones to our City Club Development Director, Jessica Allen, and Assistant Development Director, Marcella Brown. Let's return to Tom Barris. Tom?
All right, thanks very much, Ralph. We will now have the traditional City Club question and answer period, and I hope there's some doozies out there. Questions addressed to a specific candidate will be answered by that candidate with a 1-minute limit. The other candidates may then also comment for 30 seconds. Questions addressed to all the candidates will be answered with a 1-minute time limit for each. As moderator, I have the right to ask any candidate a follow-up question or ask for clarification. Those responses will be limited to 30 seconds. Now again, a word to the audience. Thank you in advance for your cooperations by making your questions brief and thoughtful. Again, keep them questions, no diatribes or speeches or monologues. State them briefly and clearly as possible. And now we'll go to our microphone holders, Marcella and Jessica, for our first question for our candidates.